with us so they can try things. You're invited to this podcast so that you can try things. Now we will stop singing so that we can all now try this.
Okay.
All right. Without further ado, let's get to today's challenge. Matilda the Musical. Marcus, what did you know about this going in? What did you see? Did you see the movie? What do you know? What did you know before watching this movie on Netflix?
So I work for Broadway, which
Brag.
is not a secret, I think. I don't know how much.
I don't know if you've ever said it in such specific terms. You've implied theater, you've implied big company, but you've never said for the Broadway, I don't think.
I work for the Broadway, so I see a lot of shows through my job and stuff, and it is so I get to see a lot more theater than the average person. I live near New York City. I grew up in New York City, and
You're
so
almost a New Yorker.
I'm a New Yorker no matter what. You can't take the New York out of the New Yorker. Okay.
How many years in Jersey do you have to
spend
spend to not be a New Yorker anymore? Because there is a number.
If it was Florida, then I would have a different argument. But New Jersey is still a New Yorker.
You know what it is? You work in New York, so that helps. But if you ever live in Jersey and I ask you, when was the last time you were in New York and you don't have an answer, you're not a New Yorker. That's the answer.
Fair enough.
But you work there, so you're there every day.
Exactly. Thank you. And I grew up there. Thank you. In the chat, again, so much love and support in the chat. Thank you. I'm a New Yorker. They recognize.
Yeah, but it's going to mess you up way more if I'm telling you you're not a New Yorker. The day that I become a New Yorker and you don't anymore is a fucking shitty day for you.
Nah, you're a New Yorker. You're a New Yorker through and through.
Pretty close. I think I'm really close now. I do a lot of improv in New York. That makes me pretty close.
I think if you would not be a New Yorker if you move back
10
home.
Years?
I take away your car. That's
100%,
the New Yorker.
100%.
Well, you're not a New Yorker if you move to New Yorker and move to New Yorker. If you move to New York for like a couple of years and then you move back home, you are not a New Yorker. You were a tourist.
Lexi just said I'm an honorary New Yorker. You know what I think makes me a New Yorker? Is if I think the moment I have a kid and I start raising in the city, even if I eventually move, like that's a New York. I live here. This is my home.
Mm-hmm.
That's like big. Anyway, Marcus, you were saying you were for Broadway.
Anyway, I work for Broadway. I saw Matilda the Musical. I had a blast. It was like it took Broadway by storm. People really loved it. It had a lot of support. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I got a chance to see it. And I loved it. I really, really had a blast. And it blew my expectations out of the water. I feel like a lot of times I'll see a show and it has a lot of hype around it and it's actually mid or it's not that impressive. And this, I think, met my expectations.
I feel that. I saw it. I saw because it was cheap on Today Ticks. I didn't think I was going to see anything special. Our friend Cassandra told us to go and I was like, yeah, okay, fine. Mm-hmm. When someone else does the work to get the tickets, I'm like, yeah, 100%. Cool.
Yeah.
Great. And I went and I was flabbergasted by how good it was.
Yeah. It's great performances. Great soundtrack. Tim Minchin, I think, did the soundtrack, who is like a musical comedian kind of guy. I don't remember
traditionally
any
very
of their...
dark, which is why it was so funny that it works so well.
It did work really well for Matilda because Matilda is surprisingly dark.
Yeah,
I forgot that watching.
There's a lot of like dread underneath everything, and then now they've turned that. So first Matilda was a book, then they turned into a movie, then they turned into a Broadway musical, and now they have turned the Broadway musical into a movie. And that's what has just released on Netflix. So everyone can watch it. It was Netflix now. It released on Christmas. Everyone should go running for it right this second.
I agree. Nick, what about you? That's what I knew going to it. And then and then we watched it for the podcast. What about you? What did you know going up? Did you love the Matilda musical on Broadway? And then that you were hyped for this? Do you like movie musicals in general? Were you cautious?
I think if we look at the track record for this podcast and the track record for like me as a person, I think I'm pretty forgiving to a movie musical. I really just enjoy the aspect of musical theater that is musical theater. I mean, it's no lie. Every week I put on an improvised musical here in the city, if not more than that sometimes in other improv shows, because the theatricality of when emotions are so much that you can no longer talk, you have to sing, is my favorite thing. It has been since I was in school. I discovered it in high school, and my first musical was in middle school, but I don't think that counts because I was in Schoolhouse Rock Live Junior, and I was the lead. But the lead was the
lead.
teacher who sat in a chair while all the kids sang to me, and I didn't have any solos.
That
So I don't think it really
doesn't
counts.
sound like a lead, Nick. I
Well,
think
I
you
did
were
all the
lied
scene
to.
work in between all the songs. Like I linked all the songs together. I was the through line. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Almost like a
got it.
narrator, almost kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah. And the narrator
Yeah.
is always the lead of the show. Yes.
Well,
everyone
was
knows the
in the whole-
narrator is the protagonist of everything.
I was the protagonist. I was a teacher at home watching TV, and the kids all came out of the TV to teach me a lesson about teaching.
Okay, got it. That's a little
But I did
different.
for a half of the show. I was just sitting in a chair, watching and going like, "They're singing to me," and
That's the best
so
lead you could ask for, honestly.
it was awful. I was so mad about it. Like I was happy. I was like, "Oh, I'm so honored. They think I'm a good actor," but I was like, I also can't sing it. Also, give the non-singing part. I don't think it was until freshman year of high school or that I really was starting to get into musicals. But that feeling of being a theater kid doing musicals in high school, I feel like I am forever chasing that feeling. And watching movie musicals is like serotonin for my brain the same way it was. And I remember being a kid from a small town, there wasn't Broadway, so when I saw Rent or literally any movie musical that came to me, I know people don't like them. I understand a lot of the times their worst version, but I watched the shit out of Phantom of the Opera, the movie. I realize it's not good, but that was the only way I could get it.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah.
And I forever am forgiving to movie musical. So I knew no matter what, I would love this. And like I said, I did see it on Broadway. And I remember, like, I think to say ennui is like one of the most pretentious things you can say. But the closest I think I've ever come is like coming out of this musical when I saw it on Broadway. Because watching children say the words that I'm almost too scared as an adult to say is just breathtaking and inspiring and makes you jump up for joy because, so when I saw that they were making it into a movie, I was so excited to hear check out our episode on Cabaret to hear Nick crush my movie musical trivia game. Did I trust that game way back when?
Yeah,
easy peasy.
You did.
But yeah, I was so excited to watch this because even if it was bad, right? Even if it was bad, it's just another vehicle for me to revisit some of my favorite songs again. But to my luck, I think this movie is fantastic. Not without flaws, but I love it. I've been listening to it nonstop.
The movie version
or over the Broadway version? Yeah,
okay.
the movie version.
Over the Broadway version.
Listen, I think the Broadway version, I saw it from far away. I don't have a face or an image for any of it left in my head, except the school song, the alphabet song.
Yeah.
That on stage is fucking so cool.
Also, Revolting Children's good. Yeah.
Well, I in my head, I don't remember that versus the Tony version.
Okay.
I think it's funny because do you ever have this where if you see a musical on Broadway or somewhere or in a movie or something, you don't want to ever experience it again so you can keep precious that version that's in your head? Have you ever experienced this?
No.
I have for me because I remember somebody explaining to me when I was young that they didn't want to watch the Phantom of the Opera movie because they had the Broadway version. And this is another thing now where it's like I had a version in my head of Matilda, but now it's gone because the most recent has like parlayed over it.
Weird.
And like 25th annual Putnam's County Spelling Bee, I think, is a great example where the only version in my head is the one that I
the
saw.
Good version.
Yeah, but if there's a movie that comes out, no, it was not that.
No, Nick, I fucking take that back. Sorry,
it was lit really well.
Take that back.
It was the lighting design on that show was perfect.
Thank you. I'm gonna pretend that instead you said, I remember our time working on Putnam County Spelling Bee, and that was the best version of the show I've ever seen.
I saw the Broadway tour of it. That's the version. But my point is, if they come out with a movie of it, I'm probably gonna lose that memory of the stage version a little bit.
That's fair.
And confuse it.
Anyway, I don't know. It stays separate enough for me in my head. I've like
Sometimes, but some of it gets muddled.
I love Little Shop
for
of
me.
Horrors, so any version of that. I've seen
Sure.
every staged version that I could see, and I've
Yeah.
seen the movie a million times. So I don't know. I like them both.
Yeah.
But I get what you're
That's
saying.
fair.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. But anyway, Marcus, I think let's get right into it. What do you think of this musical? As soon as it starts off, and this movie is like a vibe, right?
Yeah. I feel like I have a little bit of the thing that you said, I guess, where now this is being compared to the Broadway version. And
Yeah.
I have to check myself a little bit because I think that movie musicals get a bad rap, especially
Yeah.
in the theater community. You know, you've heard people talk about movie musicals in a negative way as well, I'm sure. But a lot of like
100%.
actors and people involved in theater don't look too fondly on movie musicals. I think a little bit of it is like, oh, you're just casting famous people to cast famous people when you don't need
Sometimes
to,
they do.
which is I think also I had a problem with that in this movie a little bit, but just stuff like that where like and it's just like the pretensions of it, like oh the Broadway version was better, but then the Broadway people will say oh the off Broadway version was better, and then they're like oh actually when they did it in the alley between the 43rd and 44th Street on 12th Avenue, that was the best performance I've ever seen, and it's like you know you can keep pulling it back and back and back to be as kind of like you know highbrow about it as you want, but like movie musicals give access to this kind of things. Like you, like me, I wouldn't have been able to see you know theater as a kid if I didn't watch like Little Shop of Horrors and other movie musicals. You wouldn't have been able to see stuff like that because you didn't have access to it. Like
Yeah.
fundamentally I think movie musicals are super important to continuing love of musicals. So every time I have a problem with it, I keep having to like check myself, and I want the audience to also know that in the back of my mind I understand that while I am critiquing this, I do think that it is important that it got made. I'm very happy that it got made.
I think overall, even though you didn't say too much, I know what the spirit of what you're saying is. There are like maybe 4 sequences in the movie, 3 or 4 that are just like unnecessary. They're movie
Yeah.
musically in a way that's
Yeah.
not good.
It also feels, I mean, it could be memory, but it feels long. Like it was 2 hours long, and the musical was 2 hours and 40 minutes long. So like if they cut 40 minutes out, and somehow it felt long. And maybe it's because I didn't get an intermission. I
Sure.
should have taken a 50-minute break in the middle of the movie.
Sure.
But
little
it
long.
did feel kind of long.
Movies have to do. They think they have to. I'm not a filmmaker, so this could not be true. But from what I've seen of movies feel like they have to do an establishing shot, then do a master shot, then get close, then do an insert, then do a punch, then do a close up. Then, whereas like you ain't got time on stage,
Yeah.
right? But there's also like a little leeway in the as things are changing in the darkness.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
That you just kind of naturally forgive. But I don't disagree. I don't disagree. This is a little long. I will say something controversial though.
Okay.
I will say something controversial to start us off. To really talk about
Yes.
this
Let's
movie.
get canceled.
Not that controversial. By Broadway people, I might get canceled. There was one part of this movie that I liked better and I thought worked better than the stage version. Do you know what I'm gonna say?
It worked better than the stage version. I want to say the teacher.
No, I didn't love the
Okay.
teacher. We could talk about her. The story, the escapologist and the
Oh,
acrobat.
okay.
I liked it in the stage version.
Yeah.
But in the stage version, and I love the reading room with all the
Mhm.
books, like when you see it
Sure,
on stage,
yeah,
it's so
yeah.
cool. Since we kept going back there was a air of before you found out why it was happening that I didn't like. I wasn't invested. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And maybe I just now know what it is, so I enjoy this more. But I thought that the delivery by the lead, the visual storytelling, the casting of the people in the flashback story thing, and
Yeah.
how they executed it, I thought was very powerful, very effective, and I liked it more than the stage version.
Yeah.
I think being able to cut to it happening
Yeah. Was
is
good.
something that you can only do
Very
in
helpful.
movies, and it really like colored that scene in
Yeah.
a really cool way for me.
I mean,
you know,
look,
even the color grading was different in those
Yeah.
scenes. You know,
they could have done it on the stage. They could have just had 2 people acting it out while they were telling the story.
they
If
did a little
wanted to.
bit, didn't they?
I feel like at a certain point they did, But
Yeah.
I guess you're right. It doesn't work as well as getting to see the scenery, getting to see it, like sort of like the ridiculousness of it because
Yeah.
it's a story being told by a little girl.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you're
Yeah, the
absolutely right. That works
colors, the
better.
fire, the
Mhm.
sharks, the whole thing, and it felt so I love the effect of the actors saying their lines as Matilda's shouting this story and trying to tell about
Yeah,
this
it
horrible
works really well.
thing. Like I really love that, and I don't
Yeah.
think it worked as well in the stage version.
No, I agree. That's a good point. I wouldn't give you flack for that. You get a pass. Not
Whew.
canceled.
Well, just because I mentioned her, let's talk about Alicia Weir. Weir? It's Weir. I don't know how to say it. I thought she was breathtaking as Matilda. I
Yes.
love this girl. I thought she was splendid. What did you think about it?
I thought she was a great Matilda. I think that, it's a hard role to pull off. You
Yeah.
got to be likable. You got to, have the vocal chops as well. You
Yeah.
got to also be a sympathetic character. And there's this sort of like, duality to Matilda where she's like playing a role and she's having to discover herself and she has a home life that she's not showing when she's out and about, and I think that,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a musical, so it's not fucking like Oscar bait or anything, but it was well done. And you could tell in her performance that like, oh, she had that pain from her home life while she was at school and like she was fighting an inner battle the whole movie.
I agree with everything you said. And I also think one of the reasons why I think Matilda feels like a really difficult role, I will never play it, so I don't really know.
You could do it.
But thank you. Oh, you're a sweetheart. Thank you so much. Is the words that Tim Mitchum uses are so smart
Mhm.
that sometimes, even when I'm like singing it by myself, I feel like I'm not like delivering the words the way they should be. But every time she is spewing, talking about every thread in a bolt is a tiny revolt,
Mm.
as a flashlight is the speed of light, and I move and it's still the speed of light. Like it sounds like a kid trying to figure out life. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like every time she says it, they seem like real
Mhm.
questions being asked. And that is so hard. It's so easy. There's so many words
Yeah.
in these songs. They're very difficult songs.
Yeah.
Like I would put them up there with Sondheim. Like they're like difficult songs. Like they have weird intonation. They have specific cadences. They're hard songs. And at no point did I ever feel like she underwhelmed on those songs. I feel like she overwhelmed. She overperformed.
it was
on
very
them.
impressive. I think that like you said too, like Tim Minchin did a great job lyrically because
Yeah.
all of it feels complex, and it feels clever too. It's like some British comedy is like clever in that way, and Tim Minchin, especially his like dark humor songs that he had, I think you could see him taking some of that from his past works and putting it into this play.
Yeah, it's so funny when you watch him in like interviews and stuff. It's like it feels like this was like the culmination of like everything he's done until now. You know what I mean? Like almost like
Yeah.
prepared him for it.
Yeah,
And he went on to do more
that's a good
stuff.
point.
He did Groundhog Day,
The
which
musical?
some
Yeah, yeah.
people who love it really love it.
Yeah.
But it never quite got the buzz that everything else has. And he was also really sad. He was working on a DreamWorks movie, a musical movie,
Oh wow.
for like 4 or 5 years, and then it fell off. It fell apart. It never happened. Could you
Oh,
imagine
wow.
working on something for 4 or 5 years and then like it ended up not being a thing? Could you imagine?
No, I don't want to.
4 or 5 years of your life.
That
Think about the
sounds
last 5
terrible.
years of your life. Think about the
No.
last 5 years of life
No.
were just a waste.
No. At
Is
least
that crazy?
Well, I mean, you got to think about it this way, right? Like, how long have we been working on this podcast? Like, it's just
Not a waste.
It's not a waste. It's fun. It's enjoyable. You're having a good time.
Well,
So
imagine we did all this work
sometimes-
and no one ever saw any of it.
that's true. That would be hard.
Yeah. But
Well, I mean, that is what's happening.
what are you talking about? You see our downloads. We're doing all right. We do better and better every week.
That's true. That's true.
What are you talking about? Get the fuck out of here. But one of my favorite from one of my favorite examples of like how Tim Mitchum is like so, even if you're little, you can do a lot. You mustn't let a little thing like little stop you. Like that is just
Yeah.
next level like lyricism, and I love it. I love the messages. I love everything about his words.
Yeah, no, it is one of the most interesting written musicals lyrically. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of times you get catchy, you get the jukebox thing, which is cheating, I think. But you also get like, it's very rare for you to get a cleverly written little musical.
Yeah. And then just one more line that is just one of my favorites. And I usually don't even do this. It's just his
No.
lines are so like perfect.
Yeah.
Is what's that one? When I grow up, I will be strong enough to carry all the heavy things you have to haul around with you when you're a grown up. Like
Mhm.
as those kids are all talking about, gosh, they're talking about wanting to be old so they can eat sweets and they can watch TV and do all this
Yeah.
stuff. And then it's like, and wow, I then I'll be strong enough to do all these things. And as an adult, you're just screaming to them, no, no, stay young. Don't do it. This heavy stuff we have to carry is not worth it. And every time I hear that song when I grow up, every
Mhm.
time to this day, I start to tear up every single day. This movie version, the Broadway version, I'm like a wreck.
I think that I guess my sort of interpretation of it too is that like when you are, I feel like the whole movie too, right? Like when you're a kid, you are subject to your surroundings. You have to kind of deal
Yeah.
with whatever it is that you're dealing with as a kid, and so you have this sort of like ideal version of yourself of like when I grow up, I will have this, this, and that. Things will be
Yeah.
in my own control for once.
Yeah.
And sometimes that in since you're a kid, that looks like being able to eat like ice cream for breakfast or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is nice.
Just because we've been praising for so long, Marcus, would you like to talk to me about Emma Thompson?
Oh my god. How'd you know Emma Thompson? How'd you know it was Emma Thompson, huh?
Because can I tell you something really interesting? You know who was originally attached to play that role?
Who?
Ralph Fiennes.
Oh.
Yeah.
That would have been fun.
Just saw him in the menu.
I like Emma Thompson. I think she's
Same.
great.
Yeah.
But I don't think that for this role, she was it. I think that it was kind of like a waste of money because it could have been anybody who could sing. And I think that like nowadays, I mean, this might be a bigger conversation, but nowadays actors, I don't think always have the same pull that they used to. Not all
Yeah.
actors, but there are a lot. Before it was like any popular name you throw, it's going to draw a crowd. But like, I don't think they have that same weight anymore, especially since you have to constantly be watching new content, watching this, watching that. And it
Yeah.
a lot of times doesn't really matter who's in it. It just matters if it's good or not. And it's not always
mean,
the
that's the
person
question,
that's selling
right?
the ticket.
That's the question. Who is going to watch Matilda only because Emma Thompson is in it?
No,
That's a very, very
a
small,
very small crowd,
And
if
again,
anybody.
we love Emma Thompson here. I
Yes,
love
yes.
her. One of the best actresses of her generation. Love everything she's in. And she's not bad.
No,
she's not
not
overly
terrible.
bad, but
It was
it's just-
unnecessary.
it didn't add anything. You phrased it perfectly.
Exactly, yeah.
It didn't add anything.
I think nowadays, especially too, with how sort of more socialist and communist our generation is too, it's like, I know you're getting paid a lot of money. So if
Yeah.
you are not fucking like bringing in a crowd or helping to make the movie significantly better, then all of that money could have gone elsewhere.
And I think she did as good as she could have. I think and just to roll off of what you're saying, it's like the person that would have made this role something was somebody that needed to prove something. Like Emma Thompson has
Sure,
nothing to
yeah.
prove, and she did a great job. It's just there was an it factor. There was like a special spark. There was
Yeah.
like it either needed to be scarier, it needed to be sillier, it needed to be more bravado.
It could have been
The singing had to knock anything.
anything year, it would have
Yeah.
been better. Even if
Yeah.
it was worse. Honestly, if it was a worse performance, I would have been laughing at it.
That's true.
At
It
the
was
very
very
least.
safe.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
very safe. And again, she didn't sing bad, but when I rewatched it, I did not listen through either of her two or three songs.
Yeah, and
I
it's a
fast
shame
forward.
because one of the songs I really did like on the Broadway recording, I thought was like
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, they're all very passable in the movie.
Yeah, and it's a shame because you see that kind of thing a lot of times in movie musicals when they get someone because they want to draw in a crowd, and you're just like, why? This is bad. You're kind of ruining it.
I didn't have a chance earlier to mention T in the chat said a couple fan casts for Trunchbull instead, because I just think they're all really good. Jane Lynch would be really interesting.
Jane Lynch would have been good.
Though Jane Lynch has done this before, so you know.
Yeah.
Dot Marie Jones, who was from Glee,
Mm-hmm.
who was like an actual weightlifter, all
Yeah.
American shot putter.
Oh, that would have been good. Yeah, I
Pretty
didn't like
cool.
the fat suit thing. I
And she
thought
can
that was
sing.
kind of weird,
Yeah.
like, and unnecessary too, like
Traditionally, it's there on the stage version too.
I
It's
feel
on
like even
there.
on the stage
but-
version, it's usually like men who fill out a costume more so than like a fat suit.
Oh, I thought it was fat suit too. But
I guess
you could
I
be right.
don't know. I guess you're
It
right.
is.
I
It's a
think-
weird costume with like broad shoulder. It's like a weird like
it's a weird
build.
it's a weird looking costume, but the proportions I think in the play felt wrong. Like they felt wrong in a way that's like that is
Yes.
comical and that it's not a
Yes.
human being. So it's not like a fat suit. This felt
Yeah.
more like just they were just trying to make her look heavier as a person.
That is actually really, I think, I'm going to look at it now, but from what I remember, yes, it looks like a cartoon. It's got like
yeah.
big old, yeah, you're
Which
right.
I would have been fine with if they did that in this version. And it
should've.
looks like they did a half measure, like somewhere a weird in between thing that didn't work.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then also his last suggestion, Batista.
Ooh, Batista would have been great. I would have loved that.
We're in a Batista essence.
Yeah.
Everyone loves him. We love him here on the podcast. Dude, I'm really excited for the M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Me too. I don't want to get too excited. I feel like every time I
Yeah.
get too excited, I
Yeah.
get disappointed. But Old was good.
I haven't seen it.
It's good. It's good. And
Again,
it
I
might
don't
be
have
because
anyone
he
to
didn't
watch it
write it and it's like based on a graphic novel that it's good. But like it was
Maybe.
good.
No, we've been liking, we're about 50-50 on M. Night here.
Yeah. The Visit was great.
Yeah.
Old was good. And what was that?
I like Split.
Split was good. But the
The
other
sequel
thing,
was bad.
Mr. Glass. Glass was bad.
Glass was bad.
Glass was bad.
Glass was very bad.
Yeah, it was
Glass
very-
was bad because it had so much potential, right? There were so many
Yes.
pieces of it that were so good.
Yeah, and then
And it
then
all fell
Bruce
apart.
Willis drowned in a puddle, and that was
Oh.
embarrassing.
He did that movie was so interesting, and then I'm off of it. Because that movie did this whole job to make everything feel supernatural, and then they
Yeah.
did that one shot when they were all like in the like fucking park, and he
Yeah.
was drowning, and one person was moving like a little thing a little
Yeah.
bit, and it like did a punch out of like what the real world implications were, and everyone sucked, and everything
Yeah.
wasn't real, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this sucks.
Wait, it
But,
was real though, right?
I don't know.
I
That
feel
shot
like they
made me
tried
doubt
making
it.
iffy. They tried to make you doubt it at the end. Yeah, I feel like it was like, wow, look how cool and epic it was. And then at the
Yeah.
end, it was just like, these are just three mentally ill people that the institution is letting go to town on each other.
Yeah. Ugh. He's directing, producing, and did the screenplay, so it could be good. I mean, I love Unbroken and I love Split, and if this is the beginning of a new thing, maybe it'll be great. And it's the Batista that's making me excited. Truly.
Yeah. Batista.
M. Night's a 50-50. Batista, I'm 100% right.
Yeah. Batista will do a good job. That's what I'm sure about that movie.
Oh, T, why are you out? Too scary? Oh, you too scary for you, T. It's too scary.
Don't make fun of our
Oh,
fans.
it's a baby. Oh, it's get 10 of the scare movie. It's apocalypse is coming. There's waves. There's waves coming. It's apocalypse.
Oh, also thank you to Andrew Nieves for joining the Patreon.
Yeah, thank you for joining. I don't know if he's still here. He hasn't been in the chat. But back to the movie, just to give us something to talk about, and then you can please steer the conversation wherever you'd like. One of my favorite moments was I didn't remember this moment being like truly like the way it was in the stage version. I remember liking the song Quiet, but the way it is on film. And it's because of the sound design, everything's happening in that moment. Trunchbull's coming for, and the serenity of while you're watching a movie in that moment while she's floating up, and it's like surreal.
Yeah.
And some of this realness in the movie has worked for me, some of it hasn't, but in this moment it did. It wasn't even me that really thought it was amazing. I thought it was great, and then I looked towards Lexi, who has anxiety, and like the way she was describing relating to this moment and like seeing it in her was like, oh, and it made me really understand like all those thoughts pervading thought.
Yeah.
Anxiety,
Yeah.
hoping for that one moment of quiet, a silence that's not really silent.
Yeah.
A silence that's not really silent. Like, how cool was that moment?
That is nice. I think that that is one of the beauties of media and movies is that sometimes they can portray something in a way that you can't articulate yourself, and it's so relatable.
Yeah, I always think about that with my depression because it's rare for me. depression's a funny thing because it's not feeling sad. It's like crippling in a different way.
Mhm.
But like most portrayals of it, and I'm sure you can relate with anxiety, most portrayals are really bad, really almost offensive, truly. But who are we going to complain about? We're fine and we're privileged folk. We have privilege, so who cares? We're not complaining about a random portrayal on a movie or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? That's what I mean. Like as with, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
But like truly, like finding good representations of a mental illness you personally relate to is like super tough. And
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
they're few and far between.
Yeah, especially like something. I mean, anything you've been through personally that is hard to convey, like random stuff.
Yeah.
It's good to be like, oh, I feel it. You know what I'm going through, and you can then share that with other people. In a way that it's hard to sit down and explain to someone exactly what something made you feel.
Yeah, I think like an example that just came to my head is Zoe's extraordinary playlist of watching a parent pass away and then dealing with the grief of watching that happen and then dealing with the grief afterwards of it.
Mhm.
I went through something similar with my grandma. I took care of her all the way up until she left us and then had to deal with the grief. And that show, because the showrunner went through it himself, there was like a level of like sincerity there that like
Yeah.
you really related to because of
Wow.
that. And anytime you find something like that in a medium, like you said,
Mhm.
it's truly special. It
Yeah.
really is.
That's nice. And I think the same thing. Like I think that this was really fun. I like Lashana Lynch. I think that her portrayal of Miss Honey was great. I liked her a lot.
Can I ask you a question about her?
Sure.
She's very talented. A lot of the scenes she acted, I really liked. I really liked her singing. I
Yeah.
liked her relationship with Matilda. Did it seem like the take that they had on it was just a little too nervous? Like it was like cartoony nervous. Like it wasn't like she was like everything else was so real about her relationship with Matilda, her relationship with her
I think
parents,
Yeah.
and then every time she dealt with Trenchpole, it was like, that was the only thing that was like, I wish they made a different choice. Was all.
it was cartoony a little bit. Her fear of Miss Trunchbull.
Yeah,
But also, I think it's sort of a difficult role to be in because you have Matilda
is.
and she's the one who really has to stand up to Miss Trunchbull, like in the end. And it would have been nice, I guess, to
Yeah.
have Lashana Lynch also have a moment. Does she ever have a moment against Miss Trunchbull?
not really, not the
Like
same
a
way.
brief, she stands up against her briefly, I think.
Yeah,
But like,
it felt more impactful in the original movie, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
Honey standing up. I don't know if you remember that movie, but
I never
there was
watched
a whole thing. What?
the original Matilda. I've never watched it. I've only seen the Broadway musical and this musical. That's it. I've never read the book or watched the original movie.
I'm sorry, Marcus. I think this only were my headphones because it sounds like you have not seen the 1996 Danny DeVito starring vehicle Matilda that was crucial in our whole generation's childhood. It sounds like you're saying
Didn't have that one.
you didn't see it.
I didn't watch it at all. So I have nothing to compare this to other than, the Broadway performance.
Whoa. If I had known that, I would have made you fucking watch
I'm
it.
glad you
That's
didn't know that.
crazy. Holy shit,
I've always wanted
Marcus.
to watch it, but I think by the time that I realized what impact it had, it was like too late.
100%.
I was an adult and I was like, okay, I'm not going to
100%.
go back and watch this.
Yeah, I get that. It's like going back and watching, I don't know, Goonies or like, it's like,
Yeah.
it'll be fine.
Yeah,
It'll be
yeah.
fine. You'll
It-
appreciate it, but it's not going to
Exactly.
be monumental in your childhood
Yeah.
because you didn't see it as a child.
Yeah.
Holy
recently-
shit.
Recently, Darren watched Goonies for the first time, and I was like, "Oh, cool!" I watched Goonies kind of a little bit later. I was still a kid,
Yeah.
but and I really loved it and I appreciated it. But yeah, watching stuff like that as an adult doesn't stick with you the same
It's
way.
not the same. That's crazy. That is a fantastic movie. It is doing, I mean, it's doing what Matilda does. It's showing kids that they're like worth a damn, even in spite of everything, right?
Yeah,
But it's just got less, it's more lighthearted than this is. This, even though it's a musical, I don't think is very much not scared to go pretty deep and heavy at a lot of different points. A little bit because you said what Tim mentioned, what he does with his music and everything.
yeah,
That the movie is more lighthearted at parts. It's a 90s movie,
yeah. I think
Danny
that
DeVito was a really good dad, though.
this play, the musical did feel dark to me.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
like you're dealing with like parents abusing their child and at least neglecting them, which is a form of abuse, and
Sure.
dealing with a teacher who's a bully. And I think that they've even addressed it in one of the songs, like who do you go to? Or not in one of the songs, but like the lady on the bus is like, you have to tell your teachers. These are the people you talk to about bullies.
Yeah.
But when the people who are supposed to be protecting you are the ones who are bullying you, which the substitute word they use for abuse, then you have no one to go to, and that can feel incredibly lonely. And I think that
Yeah.
this movie explores that in a very PG way.
Agreed. Which is, I think, what Roald Dahl, who wrote the original book, is like known for. I mean, he made Matilda, BFG, James and the Giant Peach, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Witches.
Yeah.
And all those are kids' stories that are like have weird, dark undertone. Like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, kids are like dying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's important to have that sort of like underlying little bit to it too, because there's so many kids out there that don't have like typical upbringings or lives and are going through stuff, and like media like this and seeing like explaining it through the lens of like, hey, these people shouldn't be bullying you. Is kind of nice. It's good to because when you grow up in environments like that, you don't even know that there is something to look out for or something that is wrong.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, stories like this are so important, and I think it's a testament to how well the movie's is made, that it's like it comes across so well, even to us as adults. Like one of my only regrets is I don't have a kid right now I could have showed this movie to right now, because I would have loved that. And just to speak a little on why it meant so much to me, it always has, but now in my life, I teach kids this age. I teach chess to children 3 to 8 years old, and I interact with these kids every single day of my life now. And like seeing this movie, I can't help but like see the kids I'm teaching and see
that's
all
nice.
of them
Yeah.
like in these moments, and those quiet moments of rebellion from them. I love to see it. I try to encourage their creativity. Like it's what I'm doing as a tutor and a teacher to them. And like, I feel like I work in a pretty privileged situation. So I'm not aware of any situation that some of the kids in this movie are going through, but like I just hope that being on Netflix, being so accessible, that the people who need to see this movie see it, to know that they're not alone and that it gets better, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I remember I saw on TikTok this one kid just freaking wailing to this song. Like seeing kids sing this song. I just read there were 200 kids they hired for this movie.
Wow, that's fun.
It's crazy. And
I like
it
the
shows.
little kid that eats the chocolate cake.
Oh, Bruno is one of my favorite songs. The
Very
way they
cute.
dance in it.
Yeah.
The dancing is phenomenal in this movie.
The
Bruno's one of my
choreography was
favorites.
really good. I think that's one of the biggest downfalls of like a movie musical, is that a lot of times
Usually,
the
yeah.
choreography will be crap.
Yeah, really by the numbers, really just trying to take what's on stage, doing something that we've seen before.
Yeah.
Like Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again is a fun movie, but the choreography is what I'm talking about. I think In the Heights did a really good job.
Yeah.
But this might be some of the best choreography I've seen in a movie musical. They go hard, man.
Yeah.
In Revolting Children, in Bruce.
It was
are
really
freaking
great.
going hard.
I was super impressed. I watched it, again, and I was watching it again today to try to make sure it was fresh in my brain, and I was like, wow, like the dancing is impressive, and I just I could watch the dancing sequences without the music over and over again.
I will go back to these dancing sequences. It's just flabbergasting because, Marcus, they're children.
That's true. I forgot that.
They probably cast these kids between 7 and 12 years old.
Yeah.
What were you doing at 7, Marcus?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was eating my boogers.
I was crying under a desk because Adam Jesse was making fun of me.
Why don't we?
I remember
call out your
that was
bully.
2nd grade. Well, he's dead. It's kind of sad. Drugs.
Oh, wow, that is sad. You made it sad.
Is this sad?
I was gonna say, oh no, like I was reading something recently that like Game Grumps got in trouble because they like accidentally doxed somebody by like who wrote a bad video game guide. I was like, oh no, is Nick like accidentally putting this guy on blast?
No, he's no longer.
No, he's dead, so can't do anything.
That's not why we were getting canceled.
Ugh.
It's very prevalent in my mind though. I remember crying underneath that desk.
Okay. Well, and you were bullied, and this movie would have been great for you.
100. Yes, Marcus. Thank you for saying that. That's exactly right. That's why I love this movie. I wanted this movie when I was 7. It
Mhm.
would have helped me so much. I think it would have helped me discover the person I am now sooner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, it took me a long time to actually get. It's funny. Anytime anyone, like, you know this about me, my closest friends and family know that I'm actually a really introverted person. I come across as so outspoken and like fucking, because like it's like all like an armor of like me making me myself feel like I'm worth a damn. But if you go back to before 6th grade, Nicholas especially, but even up until about 10th grade,
Mhm.
I was a quiet, to myself loser with no friends, and I was so in my feelings and like in my depression and like in my circumstance that like this movie,
Oh yeah.
maybe I would have gotten dance and singing sooner and I'd be better off now. Like, this
Yeah.
movie is so important.
Yeah.
Is just
No, I
what I have
agree.
to say about it.
I agree. I was very similar. Little emo baby boy.
Yeah.
Little depressed emo boy.
Yeah.
You want to hear something really embarrassing?
Yes.
I used to walk around when it was recess time in the playground and like under my breath sing songs and just walk and sing like sad songs to myself under my breath while I walked and paced around recess. I didn't have headphones or anything. I wasn't like listening to music and singing along. I was under my breath walking and singing to myself.
That's sad, but to liven it up, I will say I used to, when I was in 4th and 5th grade, when I walked home, I would go over my trumpet drills and practice and play songs on my trumpet imaginarily as I was walking home down the street to myself.
That's fun.
And which is whatever, but then one time Joseph told me that his dad drove by and saw me doing that and went home and asked him what was wrong with his friend.
It's because in communities like that, they don't have a word for theater kid yet. You know, like that
Yeah.
hasn't like really broken into those communities. It's like, oh, Nick's a little weird. He's a little off. He's just a theater kid. It's fine. He'll grow
100%.
out of it. Hopefully.
Hopefully. All right, Marcus, is there anything else you'd like to talk to about Matilda?
No, I thought it was a fun time. It's
Yeah.
a fun musical overall.
Well, let's find out. Marcus, did you like Roald Dahl's Matilda the Musical?
I did. I did. I liked it. I had to think about it for a minute. Emma Thompson kind of like brought it down a few notches, but it was good.
And you know the original version. Imagine
Yes.
you didn't know it. You'd be
Yes.
all about it,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
You know, but now you have something to compare it to. If you
Mhm.
didn't, you'd be like, wow, these songs are so revolutionary and amazing. And like,
Yeah.
they're so cool. Would you recommend this film to other
100%. I would recommend it to anybody. If you like, I guess not anybody. There are a specific brand of people that hate musicals. Hate them.
people? There are people you don't make watch it. Yep.
My mom
agreed.
makes fun of me all the time for liking musicals, and she's the one who introduced me to Little Shop of Horrors, so it's her fault.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she introduced you that because people died, not the music aspect. She
Oh
likes
yeah,
it in spite of
100%. She likes the
music.
horror aspect of it. Yeah.
And Marcus, if they made a sequel, would you if Tim Mitchell made another musical that got turned into a movie, would you watch it?
1,000,000% would do
Yeah.
that.
I kind of did you see Groundhog Day?
No, I didn't. It was in and out pretty quick.
It was. I would love it if they rethought that through and made a movie so I can like watch it
Yeah.
and like really like it. Apparently it was just too heady and then just people weren't like didn't get
Into
it,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I don't know.
get
My
that.
friend Josh, he was in it, you know. He speaks
Oh,
very
cool.
fondly about the experience, but I don't know. I never saw it.
Hmm.
And just listening, I've tried to just listen to the music once or twice, but
Yeah.
I start and then I immediately stop because I'm like, something's missing. I got to see it. It's a very visual show, it seems like.
Yeah. Back to the
know?
Future is coming. That's not Tim mentioned, but Back to the Future is coming. Speaking of
think it's gonna be
movies
good?
adapted into musicals, I am excited about it. I'm gonna watch it
All
either
right.
way.
Sure. It might be good.
Yeah.
It might not. Percy Jackson was just a train wreck apparently. A lot of people hated it.
I had fun with Percy Jackson, but I also didn't read the books or anything. And I was like,
Sure.
it's just not the worst musical I've ever seen. It was not King Kong, okay? That is the worst musical I've ever seen. It's King
Is it
Kong
really?
at the bottom, and then Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark,
Mm.
and And then
You've seen
I don't
some
know what else.
fucking good ass. We should just go over all the musicals you've seen on one episode. That sounds great. Guys, if you want to see that, let us know. But Marcus, I just checked and I thought next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/NotSureThisCast, we would be doing the fan challenge, but no, there's one extra day in January. There's 31. So
There
next week,
is.
we are doing did you know this? This is a surprise to you in this
I
moment.
looked into it earlier today and I was like, oh man, next week is my challenge. And then I was like, I got to think of something. And then I straight up just did it. So keep buying time.
Well, here's the thing, guys. I'm so excited for you guys to check out. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Check us out on Instagram. We've been trying to do different stuff. We've been trying to stream more here on the channel. Let us know what's working. Let us know what doesn't work for you. Leave the comments. Just engage. It really helps us to know what we should do, shouldn't do. Join the Patreon. Thank you to the patrons that joined during this episode live on Twitch. But of course, next week you can get this podcast everywhere you get podcasts and so on and so forth. But this week was my challenge to Marcus. I made him watch Matilda. Next week will be Marcus's challenge. And Marcus, what will be your challenge to me for this podcast episode that is happening on the 31st, Tuesday at 9 p.m.
You know what, Nick? I just don't got it. I gotta look it again. I will get back to you. I feel like
Do you want to just tell me later?
I
you
will
want me to
tell
give you something
later. No, feel like I want to tell you later and give you like time to really process it. I feel like recently I've been playing not a lot of games, but it's more like I've been reading some more. I don't want to give you a book. I've been playing a little bit more games than I watch movies. So I don't want to give you a whole 8-hour freaking game thing to play. So I feel like I want to look at the movies that I've watched recently. Darren, feel free to help out in the chat. You know what we watched recently. I feel like media have you had this problem that media hasn't been resonating with you?
Yeah, you know what's funny? I've felt that way maybe last month or two, but you know what I've been doing?
What
I've been doing? Oh, there's Darren just suggest something. There are all the Oscar movies. I haven't seen a lot of them. So if you've seen any of them, but also I feel like I've had that problem, but I recently realized that I've been watching way too much YouTube. And a lot of the things I were watching have like been wrapping up or been changing. The algorithms been changed, so they've been changing. So I don't open up YouTube and watch that much stuff anymore. So I've been downloading stuff. I watched a whole series on Hulu on my phone over this last week. I'm almost caught up with Spy X Family on my phone.
Spy X Family's good.
I watched 2 full ass movies, Black Adam. I watched Super Sons, and like now I'm getting back into it again, and I'm realizing because my phone. I don't have time, but I do have time on the train every day. My commute is over 2 hours every day.
Yeah, watch some stuff.
That's when I just made that switch this last week. My life just changed.
That's interesting. I might get into that. I feel like
I didn't think about it.
I have a couple of things that's like, yeah, I could give this to you because it is one of my favorite movies of all time, kind of thing. But
that is the principle of the podcast.
Which is the principle of the podcast. But I also wanted to be fun and entertaining. I'll give you 2 choices.
Okay.
A movie, both of them are bad. I'm going to give you the ratings. Rotten Tomato, 40% Rotten Tomato score for one of them.
Why can't you just give me Tar? It's fucking
Tar was
Oscar.
I hated Tar. 31% for
I'm really excited to watch Tar.
It's not good. It's 31%.
I think I'm gonna love it.
You might love it. I don't know. It's a fine movie. The reason it's not good is that it's mediocre. It's like the great performances in it. Like the main lead is fantastic, and then I don't care about the rest of the movie.
I hear that.
31%, 40%. The one I thought would have higher is actually lower. They're both horror, weird, heady kind of movies. And I want you to pick whether you want the bad one that is objectively bad, but I had a lot of fun watching, or the one that critics hated but audience loved.
Marcus, I know you're trying to be a G right now, but I heard no difference in the 2 things you just said.
You really heard nothing? Okay.
No, just pick. Go with your gut.
They're both sci-fi.
I want you to pick.
One's horror and one's just sci-fi.
It sounds like you're asking me to pick between a fucking goat and a sheep. Just fucking which one?
One I haven't seen and one I have seen.
Why would we watch the thing you haven't seen?
Because it's been on my list for like 2 years to watch.
It's a movie you haven't seen, and it's 2 years old, so it's not even relevant.
It's not 2 years old. It's from 1997, but I've had it on
Marcus,
my list.
We can't
for
watch
2 years.
That's not how you can't.
Okay. Okay.
That
You know what?
1997 movie
You're right.
you haven't seen yet.
I mean, look, you're right. I tried to get a pass. I tried to sneak one in there. Okay.
Don't make me watch something to give you the reason to watch it. If you haven't watched it for
That's what
26 years,
Yeah, if you force me to
then
watch it, I'll watch
I
it.
can't. I can't help you
Yeah,
if you
no.
haven't turned it on for 26 years.
That's your fault, okay? Because you haven't forced me to watch it. And at this point, I really only watch things I'm forced to watch.
We're not going to watch that one this week, but tell me what it is. Maybe we can do it later. What is it?
It is
What's the
Event
1996?
Horizon.
No way I want to watch that movie. I don't even know
No
what that
way
fucking
you want to
is.
watch that movie?
I have no idea what that is.
Event Horizon?
I've never heard of it.
Ah,
No.
come on.
Never heard of it.
Okay, this is gonna ruin our algorithm. It's gonna ruin all the momentum we've ever
All
had.
the good faith of what
all
we've
the
been doing.
good faith, all the downloads we've been enjoying.
We've been doing really good, Marcus. We've been doing real good.
It's the Guyver.
Sometimes I play up a bit.
Uh-huh.
How do you spell it? What are you saying?
It's Guyver.
This is a 1991 film. That's even worse.
I'm just saying, you had a chance. You wanted something new or relevant. I gave you something from 1997, okay? What more could you ask for from me?
Is this a Mark Hamill film that no one knows existed?
Yeah.
Are you really making me watch this fucking Power Rangers bootleg bullshit?
Yeah. Yeah.
You were doing so well. It was so nice. All right.
I
Next
wish-
week, guys.
I wish I could tell you to like do drugs when you watched it or
Marcus.
something.
Marcus. Next week, guys. Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/NotSureThisCast. We're doing The Guyver starting Mark Hamill. You can join our Patreon at patreon.com/NotTryThisCast. We had a couple new people. We have a poll going right now to decide what we're going to do when Marcus doesn't pick, and leave us 5 stars. If you can't leave us money, we appreciate it. Share with a friend. We're trying to do new things. Let us know if they're working.
Nick, look, you sound dejected, but hear me out, okay? This is my American Mall, okay? So
At
you get to
least
yell at me for
American
an
Mall
hour and a half.
has
and
music.
It's fine.
I should have put American Mall in the game. That would have been fun. Damn.
Okay, guys.
See you next week.
Thank you so much for joining us. We love you. Remember to go out there and try some things. Good night.
Friends get together so they can try things. Yell about it, it's podcast so that you can try things. Now we will stop singing so that we can all now try this.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you, Vaping Father. I think it's Josh. It's the only person I remember recording with. We talked about Megan last week. Go check out that episode. I'm sorry, Vaping Father. We're talking about
you can
Matilda
literally
this
leave
week.
and go watch that episode.
Yeah,
instead.
you can go watch that episode. We won't be offended.
Yeah.
It was good. Josh from Weirdzilla, separate podcast that we used to do about weird news in the world. It was a good time. I miss doing it, but I wish I had more free time. I'm sorry, Josh. We'll hang out soon, I promise. Oh, from what are we talking about? I don't remember. I'm sorry. This is embarrassing for me. It's also
Marcus.
derailing the podcast, so I am sorry.
This is great, Marcus. Can I tell you something?
Yeah?
I love you so much, but it would have been so easy. Dude just gave us money. Dude just
He
straight up
did,
gave us
yeah.
money. You could have straight up said, "Oh, Mason, yeah, how you doing?"
Oh, you're 100% right. I thought it was
You can
Josh.
still dig yourself
I have
out. Just
so
do
many
it.
people.
Just
Mason,
go. I'll
I
edit it.
remember
Just
you.
go. Oh, just that.
Mason, I remember it.
There you
Yeah,
go.
from what are we talking
There it
about?
is.
I remember.
Yeah. Shout
I remember.
out. Shout out.
Yes. I remember. Yes. Now it came back to me that I'm like,
Fucking
okay,
dork.
Mason. God, I'm so sorry. I have so many people that I've hung out with because of the podcast, and then just have not had time to talk to again.
I know it really sucks. We
It
made some cool
sucks
connections.
ass. It
Yeah.
sucks so badly. It's like I wish I had more time because there's so many great people that you meet. There's so many great
Yeah.
people you hang out with and like have really like connect with. And it's like, oh, cool, great. I'm sorry, I could never talk to you again. Basically,
Yeah. I did a show with some people from Vancouver, and it felt like right after we did the podcast, I could have went to Vancouver to visit them. couple months later, I was thinking about maybe going to Canada. I was like, I can't fucking text them. I haven't said anything to them. I can't be like,
Yeah.
what's up? What's going
Yeah.
on? That'd be
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
How do you stay in contact with people?
Well, thank you for joining us, and I appreciate it. But there is a Megan episode. We're talking about Matilda today, so stick around if you want to hear about Matilda. Go check
Eventually
out the
we'll
Megan
get there.
episode if you want.
Marcus, you were gonna say something before you complete. Anything else you'd like to talk about before we get to Matilda?
No, shout out to Mason. Thanks for joining. Sorry that I thought you were somebody else. I was on an episode of their podcast called Bless This Chill. Bless This Chili. Bless This Chili. Talked about kids' toys, Final Destination.
I also like he's not.
It was fun.
To be fair, he's not 100% sure, so that's helpful.
Yeah, that's fair. I remember having a fun time. I feel like every experience I've had being on someone else's podcast, same thing. You've
That's
done
untrue.
it too.
That's untrue. No,
Has
no,
been
no. There was
fun.
one you said that was bad. I won't call it out, but I want all the podcasts we've guested out there to think it
Just
wasn't
gonna
me.
Gaslight them into thinking that
That's not gaslighting. It's a fact. It's not a gaslight if it's a fact.
It could be you.
It could be a gaslight if it wasn't true. But one podcast, you came home saying, that wasn't.
Oh man. Well, you know what? I had a fun time 99% of the time.
That you didn't do not 100 podcast guests.
Percentage. It's
more than 1%.
percentage. It's not 100.
That's not how percentage work. No,
Yeah,
but
it is.
okay. Let me explain math
Look,
to you.
I could probably
To
say,
be-
look, if I want to be more accurate, I could pay like 75% of the time, right? But no, let's just be very generous because not the whole podcast was terrible of that one I did. 99%.
No, it was pretty
including
bad.
that
It was pretty
one.
bad. I watched it after. You were pretty miserable. You were pretty
Shut
miserable.